Geico presents Sharing versus Oversharing. Today, Bridget Griffin shared a video of her daily yoga routine, 2 self-help articles, and her new blog called Build Your Inner Bridge with Bridge. Girl, your sharing has turned into oversharing. No worries, Bridge. Geico has some info worth sharing with your 7 blog followers, like how you could save money on your car insurance, update your policy, and report a claim just by visiting geico.com. How's that for building your inner bridge? Bridge, Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Good morning.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning and welcome to the Parenting Aces radio show on Blog Talk Radio's UR Tennis Network. I'm your host, Lisa Stone. We have had a series of technical issues with the network, and I apologize to those of you who've been trying to tune into the show and been unable to connect. It's just been a crazy mess. And thankfully, I think we've got everything ironed out now, and we've got a great show today. Before I bring our guest today, Aaron Strimban, on the air, I want to just let y'all know about a tournament that I am working on in memory of my friend Saul Schwartz. And those of you who follow the website have probably seen me write about Saul. Saul worked for Halliburton Sports, and he was an amazing man, and he passed away suddenly earlier this year, leaving behind a huge hole, not only in his family, of course, but also in our tennis community. And so in order to honor Saul's memory, a group of us have gotten together to put on a junior tennis tournament that's going to be held in Baltimore, which is where Saul lives. And the tournament is going to be August 20th and 21st, and it is going to be at the Suburban Club, and it's going to be, we hope, just a really great junior tournament experience. We're working with the folks at UTR to do the selection and seeding for the event. We have an incredible prize package donated by Wilson that includes rackets and shoes and clothes, and it's a 1-year sponsorship for both the boys and girls winner. Halliburton Sports is the presenting sponsor of the tournament, and we're just so grateful to them for their involvement. And I think it's going to be a really cool event. So I'm hoping that all of you will go to ParentingAces.com or go to our Facebook page, and you'll see the link to sign up for the tournament there. It's called the Saul Schwartz Save College Tennis All-In Tournament. And I hope you'll join us in Baltimore in August. I will be there and look forward to meeting all of you who can attend. So, public service announcement aside, now I would love to introduce you to today's guest. We have with us today Aaron Strimban. And Aaron, the way I connected with Aaron is, of course, through Facebook, because how do I connect with anybody these days? But Aaron was actually running for public office in my old area of Atlanta. And so I connected with him and found out that in his life before law and politics, he was a tennis player and, in fact, a college tennis player. And so to him to find out if he would be willing to come on the show and chat with us about his life growing up in tennis and how he has parlayed that into a successful law career and now into the political arena. So without any further delay, let me bring Aaron on the line. I'm hoping he's connected. Aaron, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, thank goodness. This has been such a headache trying to get the show up and running and work with your crazy busy schedule. So thank you for your patience with all of this, and I'm so glad it finally worked out for you to come on.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm excited to be on the show.
Well, thank you. So I mentioned in the intro that you grew up in the Atlanta area and, in fact, in Cobb County, right? Where I just moved away from. So I'd love to hear about your experience growing up in Cobb as a junior tennis player and where you trained, who you trained with, the types of tournaments that you went to, and I'll just let you talk, and I'll interrupt you with questions as they come up, if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely. I grew up in East Cobb, and my parents moved to East Cobb in 1979 when I was about 3.5 years old, and my sort of how everything started with me is the neighborhood that my parents moved to in East Cobb did not have a swim and tennis club or swim and tennis courts. So we joined a club at the time. It was actually inside of Indian Hills. It was called Pinecrest. And it's actually had a pretty long history since then. I've learned, unfortunately, it has just been bulldozed down, and they've made some condos there. But that's where they joined, and there was a tennis pro there that put on a free clinic. And my brother is 4 years older than me, and he did it. And I also, participated. I think I was probably 4 or 5 years old. And from that, I just started playing. And the incredible thing about Pinecrest is this group that I started with there, out of us, there were 4 of us that ended up going on to play college tennis. It was Scott Lubovitz, who I actually played with at UVA, Greg Malden, who played at Vanderbilt, another guy, Paul White, who went on to play at Wofford. And it was just an amazing group of people that we all just grew up playing together, learning the game, and, competing in junior tennis throughout, from 12 and unders all the way up through college. So that's kind of where it all started. And I stayed with that tennis pro for a while. And when I kind of outgrew him, I went with, at this time, there was basically 2 main pros in the area that people were going to. And they're still around. Jerry Baskin was the one, and also Gary Grolemond. I went and took from Gary and was with Gary, pretty much my entire, junior career from age 11 on up through college. That's sort of how it all started. Yeah.
And I know both of those gentlemen, and they are fantastic coaches and fantastic people. So you were in good hands growing up. Good for you. So
I was. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. What was your parents' involvement in your tennis growing up? Because Parenting Aces, we're all about helping parents do a better job with our junior players, both in terms of figuring out the process, understanding how rankings work, understanding how tournaments work, understanding how development works, recruiting, all of that, but also understanding how to watch our children play, how involved we're supposed to be in their lessons and drills and all of that stuff. And so I'm always curious to talk to players from, a generation prior or a couple generations prior to hear their take on their own parents' involvement in their tennis.
Well, my parents were both very involved to some extent. They both worked, and so it wasn't something where they were there all the time. A lot of it was obviously just getting us to and from drills and lessons and things like that. And they would take us to tournaments, local tournaments, but a lot of the tournaments that I went to, certainly, with Macon and some of the southern tournaments and national tournaments, I would go with coaches. And my parents would. It was kind of a little bit of a different generation. And in fact, one of the earliest memories I have, I was 8 years old, and the one tennis pro at Pinecrest took a group of 7 of us to Augusta for a tournament. And it's just, I have children now, and I don't know if I would allow my kids to go with that now, but it was just sort of a different time. And it was a little bit more of a hands-off approach. And I think the fact that we had this really good group that, we didn't need the motivation from our parents. We kind of wanted to do it ourselves. And we did. We all kind of motivated each other and competed with each other. And my parents were definitely involved, but they were not, there for everything. And it was sort of up to us to want to do it. And if we wanted it, they were there to obviously provide the resources and the transportation and the money. Of course, it costs money for the drills and the lessons and all that sort of stuff. So it was great. I mean, it was one of those where if I wanted to do it, they were not pushing me to do it. They were certainly encouraging me, and if ever I got down about something, they were there to help. But it was not a sort of a pressure-filled situation. It was a lot of self-motivation, just from me, but also just from the people I was around, my other peers and kids I was playing with.
That's great. Did your parents play?
My mom played alto, and that's actually how she got introduced. When we moved here, she had never played before, and I think somebody encouraged her to get on a C-level alto team early on, which she did, and so she started playing. And so she played. She played from then, all the way, probably for the last 30 years or so. She is not playing now. So she did play. My dad played a little bit, but not really very much. So they certainly weren't competitive playing in tournaments and things like that. My mom, I think, she got up to maybe a high B, low A level alto team by the time she stopped playing alto. So they played, but just sort of recreational.
Gotcha. And for those listeners who don't know what ALTA is the Atlanta Lawn Tennis Association, and it is actually the largest recreational tennis league in the United States and bigger than USTA League Tennis. It's an incredible organization, and for people in Atlanta, you're basically identified by your ALTA team and your ALTA level. So it's a very important part of our culture here in Atlanta.
It sure is, and in fact, that's that's how I sort of got started. I was on a team. They had, I think that at the time they had, I guess it was a 12 and the lowest bracket at that time was 12 and unders, and I was only 6, and that was my first time I played alto. And on that team, this goes back to this club where I started from. There were 4 of us on that team, 6, 7-year-old kids who wound up playing college tennis, which is just kind of amazing to think about how it all happened.
It is amazing. At what point did you realize that college tennis was your goal?
It was early. It was certainly probably 10, 11 years old, I would say. I'm not, at the time there was 12 and unders and 12 and under national tournaments, and I played in those, and at that point I think that was the goal. That was the ultimate goal, was to play college tennis. That was always kind of the dream. And so at that point, that's kind of what I was working towards and wanted to do. And it was tennis was my life. That's what I enjoyed doing. I was good at it, and I liked it. And that's kind of when I decided, I really would love to play college tennis. I think I always knew that I was not going to be a professional tennis player. I don't know if I have the ability to play on the tour or anything like that. So it was always college tennis was kind of the ultimate goal for me.
Gotcha. Did you go to college matches growing up? I mean, we've got so much amazing college tennis in this area. I did.
I went to, back then the NCAAs were always in Athens every year. So I have a real good memory of going down and seeing when Michael Pernfors was playing at Georgia, and when he won it, I went down with my dad, took my brother and I down to that, and we saw Pernfors play. At that time, Paul Anacone was playing at Tennessee, and he was there, and just seeing that atmosphere in Athens, which when it comes back to Athens every 3-4 years or so now, it's similar, and you see that. I was probably, I don't remember exactly how old I was, but I was probably 7, 8, 9 years old, somewhere like that, and you see that, and you just it's a dream to try to be a part of that and do it. So, and we also I remember going to, I don't know what it's called these days, but it was called WCT. It's over in Norcross Racket Club of the South. It's had a bunch of different names over the years, but they had a college tournament between Clemson and Georgia Tech, I remember, and I think Brian Shelton was playing those days, and just seeing all these great players at such a young age where it was certainly inspirational for me and made me want to try to do it.
That's very cool. I think there are a lot of players like you that got inspired young. My son among them, got inspired by watching college tennis or having an experience of hitting on college courts, and it's just such an important part of the development process, I think, in this country, and one that not everybody takes advantage of for some reason. I'm baffled by the number of kids that have never been to a college tennis match. And, I mentioned at the beginning of the show this tournament that we're putting on in Baltimore, and one of the goals of the tournament is to raise awareness about college tennis. And, our long-term goal is to host these events on college campuses around the country and get kids playing on these college courts, because Wayne Bryan, he says this all the time, you have to see it and live it in order to be able to dream it. And once you've lived it and seen it and dreamed it, then you can be it, you can become it. And I think that's just a huge piece of the puzzle. So I love your story, that you went to the NCAAs. They are going to be back in Athens in 2017, by the way. So hopefully I'll see you out there.
Absolutely, yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. So, so you went all through juniors. How were you a highly ranked junior? I mean,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No,
I always
continue.
joke that I kind of peaked when I was 12 years old. I was ranked 37 in the country when I was 12, and then from then on, I always kind of went backwards a little bit. But yeah, I was always ranked. I would say in the state anywhere from 1 to 5 in the state. Usually certainly top 20 in the South, top 16. At that time they took 16 people to nationals. That was the quota from the South to get into the national tournament. So I was always kind of right there, and then usually always a top 100 player in the country, and so if you call that a highly ranked junior, I know some people. I guess it's all relative, but that's kind of what my rankings were kind of growing up.
I definitely call that highly ranked. Yes, and you would be considered among the elite of junior players for sure, for sure. So, I mean, when you were getting ready to start looking at colleges, the recruiting process looked very different than it looks today. You're not that old, but you're old enough that it was before the time of the Tennis Recruiting Network, which the kids use now. It was before the time of Universal Tennis Ratings, which the kids use now. What did your process look like in terms of finding the right school?
For me, at the time, and I don't know if this is still the case, but at the time you were allowed to take 5 official visits for college or to pick a college. And for me, academics were a big part of my decision. So all the schools that I was looking at all had strong academics as well. So that was a big part of it. And I just sort of targeted schools that I felt like had that mix of where I could play on the team and also, that also had strong academics. So for me, like places like Stanford, that I wasn't good enough to play out there. So that would have been a great academic place, but I think the tennis was too high, and I don't think I could have played on that team. So for me, the 5 schools that I was looking at that sort of fit that criteria were Georgia Tech was one, University of Virginia, which is where I ended up going, William and Mary, Rice University out in Houston, and University of Richmond. So I went and visited all those schools, and honestly, once UVA was interested and offered me an opportunity to play there, I kind of just jumped on it. That was just for me. Once I was on the grounds up there and saw the university, I kind of fell in love with it, and as soon as they offered, I I accepted quickly. But that was kind of how it was for me. Yeah.
And so, I mean, again, this, when you were doing this, it was before the days of email. How did you reach out to the schools? How did you pick which 5 you wanted to visit?
Yeah, so what would happen back then is you would actually get letters in the mail from various, schools all over the country, and I think they would look at the national rankings and send out letters to the juniors, and you'd get them and sort of look at some of them through that way. And for me also, it was, I knew folks that went to various places too, and that liked it. So, for example, I mentioned earlier he's one of my best friends now, Scott Lubovitz. He was a year older than me in school, but we were the same age tennis-wise. They had a funky thing when I was growing up where they changed the cutoff date for birthdays. It used to be September 30th, and they changed to January 1st. So that kind of did some funky stuff with as far as not matching up grades in school with where you were as far as age groups in tennis. But anyway, he was a year older in school, and he went to play at Virginia, so I knew somebody there, and so I was able to talk to him about it. So it was just a lot of that. I mean, it was letters in the mail. It was just, do you know anybody? Is there an area of the country you'd like to be in? And things like that. And it was writing letters and just sort of a little bit of the snail mail and things like that. And also
right.
One of the big things, and it might still happen now, but at the national tournaments, when you go there, you would contact these coaches if you were interested in going to the school, or if they were interested in seeing you. You would be in touch with the coaches, through phone calls or mail to let them know you're going to be at the national clay courts and I think it was I guess it was in Nashville. And so you'd see them there, and they'd be able to watch you play, and just sort of decide if it was if it would be a good fit. So not quite as high tech, but it worked out pretty good.
For sure. So you get to UVA, and I mean, it's far enough from home that it's not a weekend visit to come back to Atlanta to see mom and dad. How was your experience there? Was it a big adjustment, or did you find that you just kind of eased right into it?
Well, I really, I knew one person on the team, and I knew one person pretty well on the team, and then there was another person I knew on the team, not as well, but I kind of knew of him. And that was kind of it. I really didn't know very many people up there. And so it was a little bit of an adjustment, but I came in with 2 other people my year and roomed with one of them. So we kind of helped each other a little bit, and it was amazing. I mean, there was no email at the time. And long-distance phone calls were very expensive. So, you would go certainly a week, maybe even longer without talking to your parents. And you kind of just get thrown in there. And it was nice to have. I mean, tennis was great for that respect because there's a lot of other students that started that are getting thrown in, going up to college for the first time, being away. And they don't immediately have that built-in sort of security blanket of a team that I sort of had. So there was some organization, as far as helping you pick out classes, giving you a little bit of a schedule so you are not just kind of aimlessly going around trying to figure it all out. There were older people on the team, certainly. The third and fourth years on the team when I was there, they sort of take you under their wing a little bit and provide some guidance. So for that, in that respect, tennis was great because it just helps you to get adjusted. And, I felt lucky to have those people to help me, to say, all right, these are the classes that you should start, you should take, or if you're interested in this will be good. This is where you go. Even the simple things of, where is class? How do I get there? Things like that. Where do you eat? All these things that you sort of just don't even think about that you have to sort of figure out. So it was great to have older guys on the team, and just to have the team, and obviously the coach too, to ease it in and make it a little bit easier to adjust. So that was great.
And so at some point in your college tennis career, you were elected captain of the UVA tennis team. Can you talk a little bit about how that came to be and what that experience was like? Yeah.
So when I got my, I've always been a little bit of a scrappy person and fighting for that sort of the last spot. And in college tennis, there's 6 singles, 3 doubles. And I was always fighting for that 6th spot. That was just where I was on the team. And my first year, I was not that 6th spot when the season started, but I was able to, just to improve and do well and earn that 6th spot on the team as a first year. It's kind of 6 singles. I played 6 singles and 3 doubles my first year. And then from then on, continually, we'd bring in really good recruits, and I would continually be fighting for that spot. And I think, just the coach saw that and really appreciated how hard I worked. I'm not a 6'3" guy with a 130-mile-an-hour serve. I'm 5'8" and just kind of grinding from the baseline. That was my game. So I really, I think that the coach saw how hard I worked and how much it meant, and just as just kind of as a reward for that, and also just and how I interacted with the team, and just my 4th year as a reward for all the hard work and the commitment and sticking with it. There were certainly times in college, my college career, where I was frustrated with things, felt like maybe I should be playing in that 6th spot when I wasn't, 2nd and 3rd year and things like that. So it was, I think a lot of that went into the decision to make me a captain, and it really meant a lot to me when he did that and the team did that.
And so what was that experience like, being captain, being in that leadership role on your team?
Well, it was great. I mean, and I've sort of carried this on through, and even now I love teaching and I love helping. So it provided just the perfect opportunity to do that, just to help people and to lead people along, especially the younger guys on the team, and that's what it was. It was just trying to, for me, I think I'm soft-spoken. And so it was more of a leading by example. And then when I, would say something and feel passionate about something, about whatever's happening with the team, I would, and people would definitely listen. So it gave me that, that platform to do that. And it was great. I mean, it's just always nice to be recognized and to, gain the respect of people and have people listen to you and want to, learn from you. And so it gave me that platform. It was good.
Sure. So you ended up graduating from UVA, and at some point along the way made the decision to go to law school. What influenced that decision?
Well, it was the summer before my 4th year. I have an uncle. He lives in Pennsylvania, and he's a lawyer. And I got to spend, a couple months with him over the summer, just sort of tagging along with him. And I guess you'd call it an internship, but it was more just being with him and watching. And he was great. He took me to everything that he did. And I just saw it. And he did a lot of. He had a pretty general practice, but a lot of what he did was personal injury work, where he was helping people who were at pretty tough times in their lives, and I just saw that and just really enjoyed what he was doing and liked and wanted to do that. So that was kind of where I kind of first got the bug that I wanted to do that. But actually, I took a year between college and law school. So when I graduated from Virginia, I came back and I worked for Gary Grolman. I worked in his tennis academy for a year, just to sort of give a little bit of a break and to maybe give back to some of the juniors that that were there at the time, and that was great. That was a good thing. So, but it was definitely the summer before my fourth year when I got a chance to spend time with my uncle in his practice is when I decided I wanted to go to law school.
And you stayed in the Atlanta area for law school, correct?
I did. I went to Georgia State, started there in '99, and I graduated in '02. And, it was a great place to be. Met my wife there. She's a lawyer, too, and we were in the same class together. And it was a great school, great place to be.
Was tennis part of your life during law school?
It actually wasn't. I kind of, after having it being my life, basically from almost age 7, all the way through, 22 years old when I graduated, and then the year afterwards when I was teaching tennis. I was ready to do something different. So it kind of went on hold for a little bit, and actually it's funny. There's a guy that I went to school with who he grew up playing junior tennis in Florida, and but he was an incredible athlete who ended up playing college baseball at Florida, and then professionally. And it was kind of our third year, and he's like, you know what? Why don't we go out and play some? So we did, and that was the first time that I really that I played in probably a couple of years after graduating. Just sort of immersed myself in law school, and it was an interesting time for me because everybody knew me as a tennis player my whole life. And then to start law school where that's not who you are anymore. You're just somebody. You're totally different. Was good for me, and so I didn't play for a while, but I did start playing again, and and now with little kids, it was just such a great sport, and it did so much for me. I would love to see them play too if they're interested. So.
Do you remember what it felt like to get out and hit with your Florida law school buddy that first time? I'm just curious if it was something different, because obviously it wasn't paying for college anymore. It wasn't about ranking points or, training for a tournament. And I'm always curious how that feels. You're right. It takes on such a new aspect, and it felt great. I mean, nowadays it's wonderful exercise, and all of a sudden too, the competitive side of it comes back out again, and you find yourself. We start playing. You start playing a baseline game, or not even really playing a set or anything. Just sort of this little game, and you just cannot turn off the competitive side of it. You want to win. You want to win the point. You want to whatever you're doing. So it was. It's almost like a switch gets flipped,
and there you are back again doing it. So, all the great things, exercise, being competitive, being out there, just focused on that, and so it was a great feeling. It really was, and I miss that. You don't, and that's actually one thing about my job that I love is there aren't very many jobs out there where there kind of is that competitive. There is a winner and a loser, and certainly what I do, it's there. If you go and you try a case, there is a winner and there is a loser, and that's a unique thing. Tennis, growing up playing tennis and experiencing that and knowing it's only you. You're not out there with 5 other people on the field or whatever, or on the court. It's just you out there. Certainly in singles, it's something that I think has helped me in the career that I've chosen.
Interesting. So I'm going to admit to one of my guilty pleasures. My husband and I are big Netflix binge watchers, and right now we've been watching Friday Night Lights, which is about high school football for those who, like me, missed it the first time around. And we're kind of at the place in the series where one of the star players on the high school team is injured and isn't sure he's ever going to play football again. And he's struggling with this whole idea of who am I if I'm not the star running back of the high school football team. And you mentioned making that transition when you went to law school, that you had always been known as, the quote tennis player, and now that wasn't your identity. I'd love to get you to dig a little more into that, because I think that's a really a common kind of transition that junior athletes go through, and certainly college athletes go through. And even if they leave the sport of their own accord, of their own choice, not due to injury or, some other, God forbid, horrible reason, there's still that period of adjustment from being the tennis player to being whoever else you are becoming at that stage.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it's I think a lot of it is, just like you said, how you come about that that point in your life. Is it something that's forced upon you? Is it something that you have done yourself? Is it something that you are looking forward to? Is it something that you're dreading? And for me, I was excited. I was excited not so much to not be known as a tennis player anymore. That wasn't it. But I was excited about sort of starting something new, and I was very much looking forward to it. So it was a transition that was a good one. It was one where I was optimistic. But I can certainly have, had I had to make that transition, let's say in high school, where that's, something happened, or for whatever reason I couldn't compete anymore, or if I wasn't, if I didn't get to go to the school that I wanted to go to or something, it would be tough. It would be tough. So I think so much of it is the perspective you bring into it. And it was one, for me, it was just one of, optimism and excitement and almost turning over a new leaf and to see where this is. Because, I was extremely fortunate. I mean, I lived, it was a dream. I mean, junior tennis was great. I made so many wonderful friends that I still keep in touch with. I got to go to the college I wanted to go to. And I knew it wasn't one where I felt like I had left something on the table. I knew I wasn't good enough to play on the pro tour. It just wasn't something I was thinking about. So an easy transition, but so it was in a way could be a little refreshing. It was something always in the but it is funny though where people will start talking about let's just if I'm with people or I was with people that didn't know that I played tennis, and they start talking about Alta, or they start talking about something having to do with tennis, and the part of you just wants to jump out and say, I was a college tennis player, I'm really good at tennis, and but you try not to do that. You just let it, at least I did, and I didn't, I wanted to be just known as Aaron in law school, and kind of went through that. So it's a great question, and it's a great thing to think about, and I would say it's certainly individual, and for me, just honestly, I was very fortunate to be able to pick that transition on my own. It wasn't forced upon me, and for me that made it one that was that was easy to get through. It really was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So this last year, in addition to your law practice, you decided to throw your hat into the political arena. And
yes.
As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, that's how I found you, is you were running for office, and I saw your Facebook page, and I think you reached out to me, messaged me or something, and so what made you want to go that route? I mean, politics is dirty business. We all know that, and it can be extraordinarily stressful on the family. You've got young kids. It's a lot to deal with, and I suspect your law practice had to be put on hold somewhat while you went through the process. Is there any connection that you can make that's either, an obvious one or something that kind of in hindsight you went, between lessons learned through tennis and your experience in politics so far?
Well, gosh, good question. Something that tennis has done for me just throughout my life is it teaches you, and it taught me time management and discipline and hard work. And you have to have that if you want to, I think, be a competitive, really in any sport, but certainly in tennis, and certainly for me. Just growing up in high school and in college, you have all these things you want to do, and I think you should be as complete a person as possible. And for me, what that meant in college was, I wanted to play collegiate tennis. I wanted to do well in school, but I also wanted to experience college too and have fun. And I was part of a fraternity, and so there's all the social aspect, the athletic aspect, and the academic. You wanted to make all of that work. So what that means is the only way you can do that and be able to do all three of those is you have to figure out a way to manage your time and to be disciplined. And that's what I did. I mean, that's the only way I think you can do it. So, you learn that, and that becomes a part of your life, and I think that was the only way that I was able to make this political run work, and also keep the law practice going and be able to also somewhat spend time with the family and just all the things you want to do and to be a complete person. And it was that. It was just scheduling and being disciplined and working hard. And for me, with the political run, you are right. Politics can be tough and dirty at times. But the good thing about what I was doing is I think that a judicial race is a little different. You have a lot of those aspects, but it's a little different in that, at least in my race, everything was above board. There was no mudslinging. There was no tearing down of other candidates. It was all just, this is who I am. as a lawyer and a candidate, and if you think that's good, vote for me. It wasn't these other folks I'm running against, these are the negative things about them. There wasn't any of that. So that made it easier and that made it better. So you could focus on yourself, and it was a little, as I said, a little bit more above board. And also the other important thing too is the fact that it's nonpartisan. So you were not spending time being attacked by one side or the other for various things. It was just simply who you are. Do you have integrity? Do people trust you? Do people think you would do a good job? And so that made it something I was able to do. But as far as the tennis goes, I mean, it's just simply the work ethic and the time management was two things that are just have been ingrained into me from tennis. Because as any person who's ever played junior tennis knows, you miss out on a lot. You certainly you're not going to spring breaks a lot of times. When all your other friends from school are, you are sometimes missing whatever, just dances and things like that happen in high school and middle school and things like that. And you have to be able to do that, and but also not completely. At least for me, there were people that would go to a tennis academy and that would be their entire life. I did not want that. So it's a matter of balance and management and discipline, and I think that's what ultimately I was trying to do in the campaign to be a judge.
So will you run again, do you think?
I would. It's a unique thing, the judgeship, in that there just aren't very many opportunities, realistic opportunities, in my opinion, to run for a number of reasons. The one of them is it's very difficult to challenge an incumbent judge and win. It very rarely happens. And here in Cobb, we have wonderful judges, and I think they're doing very good jobs, and I wouldn't want to really challenge one of them. I'm friends with them, and I think they're doing good jobs. So it comes to times where a judge will have to retire in order for the seat to open, and then not only retire, but they have to retire at the end of their 4-year term. And if they do that, he or she that opens up the seat to the public. Whereas if they decide they want to retire in the middle of the term, the governor gets to appoint the replacement. And when that happens, you again have an incumbent that's tough to beat. So it's a situation that would have to be where a sitting judge would have to retire at the end of their term. And the other thing with this race, when I decided to run this time, was that all happened. And in fact, in Cobb County, it was kind of historic. There was not only just one judge, but there were 4 judges that all decided to retire within a month or so of each other, very, very close together. So all these seats opened up at once, which is very rare. And then also my experience is in the civil arena, and when I saw the candidates for the one particular position I decided to run for, their background was more prosecutorial and in the criminal, and I just felt on the state court it's important to have somebody with the civil experience. So all those stars aligned for me, and that's why I decided to run. So it would have to be a situation like that where the stars would align. But it was a great experience for me, a growth experience, a learning experience, and I'm leaving with a good taste in my mouth about everything. So absolutely, I would run again if the opportunity arose and sort of the stars aligned again as they did.
Very cool. So we're coming to the end of our time together. I wanted to. You touched on the fact that you have kids and you hope that your kids get the tennis bug at some point. what role does tennis play in your life right now? How often do you get to play? Does your wife play? You know, do you have a social group that plays? Are you playing competitively? You know, I'd love to just hear where it fits in.
Yeah. Well, it's it fits in a lot of ways, and a lot of it is I still keep in touch with so many of the people that I grew up playing with. So that's a big part of it. Even though I'm not out on the courts all the time and playing as much, I still, you know, tennis is still a part of who I am because of my friends. And you know, I have friends all over the country that I played with and I still keep in touch with, and we will just, you know, it's just fun to still laugh about and talk about, you know, when we were 16 years old playing in the finals of Macon, you know, things like that. So that's a big part of it. And then as far as just playing, I play. I will on occasion. I kind of bounce around on Alta teams a little bit. I was on more of a steady one for a while, just a neighborhood team that would allow me to get out there and play and just remember how good it feels to return hit a good solid backhand, return a serve or something like that, or serve and volley. Just that feeling of being out there doing it, and the feeling of hitting, you know, shots is fun. So I'll play. I played on an Alta team last fall. Was actually with the guy that I was talking about that I went to law school with. He has a team that he's on, so I think I played 4 matches with him on that team. I didn't play this past season just because of the campaign. So it's there, and actually not too long ago, this was probably about 3 weeks ago or so, I went out with my 3-year-old. He likes to swing the racket around, so we went out and I kind of tossed him a couple balls on the tennis court and so had some fun with that. So that's kind of where it is. My wife does not play. She doesn't play. So it's sporadic, but it's one of those things now where I want to get back and start playing again a little bit more, and just because it's a lot of fun, it's great exercise for me, and you know, and I would love to be able to go out there and hit one day with my kids if they decide to do it. So we'll see what they decide.
I can tell you from personal experience, my most favorite Alta season was a year ago. A year ago? Yeah, a little over a year ago, playing mixed doubles with my son. And, you know, the minute he turned 18, I said, you have to be my partner for one season. You don't have to play more than that, because I knew he was going to be miserable out there playing with a bunch of old folks. But he was a good sport. And, oh, my gosh, from the parental side, it was amazing to be out there with him. So I wish that for you as your kids go through the process and, you know, hopefully get the bug and continue to play. There are a lot of parent-child opportunities actually in Atlanta too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Well, it's
hopefully
funny
you'll get to take advantage of that.
I hope so, and it's funny you mentioned that. I actually played mixed doubles with my mom. You know, probably 7 or 8 years ago or so, after, you know, after college and all that, and it was fun. It was fun for me. So even the child perspective, playing with your mom or dad is great, and I had a chance to do it on one season in mixed doubles in Alta, and we had a great time. So it's good.
Well,
so hopefully I can be the parent side of it one day too.
There you go. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for being on the show. And again, I apologize for all the crazy technical glitches we had trying to make this happen today, but I'm really grateful to you. I know you're busy, and so thanks for sharing your story. It's a unique one, I think. You know, I mean, we talk to a lot of people who, you know, they play college tennis and they go out on the tour for a while, or they become coaches, but I always think it's interesting to talk to people who went the college route and then found a profession away from tennis that they fell in love with and pursued, and, you know, seeing that link between their tennis youth and their adult professional life is always very interesting. So thanks for sharing that with us, and hopefully I'll see you out on the course at some point.
That sounds great. Well, my pleasure. I appreciate you having me on, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, great. Thanks so much. To my listeners, thank y'all so much for tuning in. And again, apologies for all the craziness these last couple weeks. I hope to get back to a regular broadcast schedule. My travel schedule this summer has made that a bit challenging as well. So we will not have a live broadcast this coming Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, we will have Jeff Rothschild back on the show, and he's going to be talking about supplements, nutritional supplements in junior athletes and college athletes. And Jeff is a registered dietitian. For those of you who missed his first appearance on the show, you might want to go back and listen to the podcast. But it's going to be a really interesting conversation, especially in light of the Maria Sharapova case and the Russian athletes and the Olympics. And so I think we will have some really juicy stuff to talk about. So thank y'all for tuning in. Please take a look at the Saul Schwartz Save College Tennis All-In Tournament, and if you have an opening in your junior players' schedule, August 20th and 21st, we'd love to see you up in Baltimore. The entry fees are super, super low, $30, and you're guaranteed 4 matches. We're doing a round-robin format, and like I said, Wilson Tennis is donating a 1-year sponsorship to both the boys and the girls winners of the event. So pretty cool. Beats the heck out of a plastic trophy, I think. So take a look at it. And in the meantime, have a great weekend and a great next week. And I'll see you in 2 weeks on Parenting Aces.
Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Earlier this week, Claire Tippins shared a princess nickname generator, 3 pictures of her dog wearing a tutu, and 2 online quizzes, including, what candy is your dream castle made of? Claire, your sharing has tipped the sugar scale and turned into oversharing. But have no fear, princess. Geico has something worth sharing with your internet kingdom, like how you could save hundreds on your car insurance just by visiting geico.com. No magic wand required. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
For 50 years, Kawasaki has been defying convention and building masterpieces that have revolutionized motorsports. Come celebrate Kawasaki's breakthrough products like the jet ski watercraft, Ninja motorcycles, and Mule side-by-sides at the Golden Anniversary Sales Event from April 1st through June 30th. Great financing is available, plus sales incentives on select models at participating dealers.
Visit Freedom Power Sports Canton before June 30th to take advantage of these great offers.